Merit is a serious word. Spoken liner notes, intellectual blues. Merit is a serious word. It deserves more than slogans. Lately, we've heard a familiar argument that hiring, promotion, and opportunity should be based solely on merit and talent, not race, not gender, not sexual orientation. On the surface, that sounds reasonable. Most people agree that qualifications matter, especially in institutions where competence isn't optional. But the conversation usually stops too early because merit has never existed in a vacuum, not in this country. When the United States was founded, only about 6% of the population could vote. That 6% was almost entirely white men who owned land. Political power wasn't tied to talent. It wasn't tied to intelligence. It wasn't tied to service. It was tied to access. That wasn't a meritocracy. That was a restricted system by design. Women were excluded. Enslaved people were excluded. Most free black people were excluded. Indigenous people were excluded. Talent existed everywhere. Opportunity did not. For generations, merit could only be recognized after permission was granted to enter the room, and most people were never allowed near the door. That history matters, and it's not just history. When I was working on my MBA, each student was assigned an entrepreneur to study in depth. I was assigned Donald J. Trump. At the time, I knew almost nothing about him. I hadn't watched The Apprentice. I had no strong opinion going in. What I learned was sobering. I learned that hundreds of millions of dollars in inherited capital were burned through, that multiple ventures failed, and that it wasn't operational excellence that revived his public standing. It was television. A reality show didn't just entertain the public. It rebranded failure as success. That's when it clicked for me. In America, resilience is often confused with merit, and access to recovery is not evenly distributed. Some people fail and are erased. Others fail and are reframed. That doesn't make success illegitimate, but it does make the conversation about merit incomplete. Because when we talk about merit today, we often pretend the starting line was always fair. It wasn't. Even now, we accept forces that have very little to do with individual merit. Legacy pipelines, political patronage, media visibility, ideological loyalty, proximity to power. These things shape outcomes every day, but they're rarely labeled as distortions of merit. For many Americans, excellence was never optional. It was the minimum requirement just to be considered legitimate. That reality doesn't undermine merit, it explains it. I know what comes next. Someone will say, this is dwelling on the past. Someone will say, it's making excuses. But acknowledging history isn't about blame. It's about honesty. Merit only means something when the starting line is real. Ignoring the past doesn't protect merit. It turns merit into a slogan instead of a standard. Merit is a serious word. It deserves memo.